welcome back to another video of the Alchemy Workshop. This video is going to go over something kind of boring for a lot of people, but it's safety. There's a lot of videos on safety. This is like a crash course, so if there's something in particular you're looking into, I'd suggest looking at particular videos on that. I'm going to run through the main things I can think of when it comes to blacksmithing and bladesmithing. First off, the one you'll probably hear about the most is eye protection. I have to admit, when I first started out, looking back, there's a lot of stuff I did that was totally stupid, and I'm lucky I didn't really hurt myself. And there's people that do a lot of things that are stupid, and they're lucky they haven't gotten hurt. But there's some precautions that are worth taking. I don't have health insurance, so I got to be extra careful. But eye protection is very important. Anything. Squinting doesn't really cut it. I don't have the best stuff for eye protection, but it's stuff I'll upgrade. It's better than nothing. I have some goggles. These are great, and they cover completely, so it's good for when I'm grinding or sanding, and it prevents the dust or fine metal pieces from getting in my eyes. Also, flying hot metal objects. That's not fun to get in your face or in your eyes. Other options are like these full face shields, which are a bit more comfortable. This is a cheap one from eBay. If there's something flying at it at high velocity, it's probably going to go right through it, but still better than nothing. Also, when grinding and stuff like that, sanding, you want to watch out for the dust. You're going to be picking out these gnarly boogers. But, some exotic woods, for example, they can be toxic when you're breathing it in. A lot of this metal crap, you don't want to inhale it. So get a respirator. I have one that has to be fixed. The straps broke. Worst case scenario, I just throw something over my face to stop breathing in as much of the stuff as possible. One annoying thing, though, is when I'm wearing a mask and my safety glasses, they eventually fog up. So if anyone knows any tricks to prevent that, I'm all ears. I'd be very interested to learn how to prevent that, because that usually I have to stop and take a break when that happens. The biggest thing, especially if you're getting into blacksmithing, that I suffered from is hammer technique. When I got my forge, that's all I was doing, and next thing I knew, I got tendonitis, aka Blacksmith Elbow, and that sucks. It took months for it to heal. It's finally healed, but once you get it, it's very easy to get it again. So it's pretty much like it can take a month, it can take several months. It took me quite a few months to heal, and during that time you do not want to do anything to aggravate it, so I had to take a break from hammering for months. Look at videos on proper hammer technique. Your anvil height will have something to do with it, but it's also the way you're gripping the hammer and using your arm, and you learn to use the shoulder and not the elbow. So there's good videos on that. Also, your handle, it should fit well. There's videos on this stuff. I'm not going to go over all the details, but those are the big things. If your hammer is if the handle's not right for your hand, you're going to squeeze hard, and it's going to also mess up your elbow. Also, if your hammer has any kind of finish on it, lacquer, or it's like a synthetic handle, don't use that. I've got one here, which I did use at first, and then you're going to wonder why you're getting blisters like crazy. So these kind of like rubber handles and stuff, they're terrible for that kind of stuff. You want a wooden handle. If it has a finish on it, sand it off. And what I usually do is burn it with a torch. It kind of gives a nicer texture, it's more comfortable, and coat it with some boiled linseed oil. But yeah, check out hammering videos, because I was making the mistake of using my elbow and just beating the crap out of it with the wrong movement, and I really screwed my elbow up. It got to the point where just reaching out to pick up a bottle of water was painful. Luckily that's healed, and now I'm able to use much heavier hammers without any problem. So yeah, that's one of the big things I learned the hard way. Now I'm going to talk about what I think is probably one of the most dangerous tools I use quite often. That's an angle grinder. So angle grinders it's one of the most I use this thing all the time. I have a couple of them. It just makes it easier so I don't have to switch out to a flat disc or something. This is a cutting wheel, and these things can shatter, and they're going at a high velocity. It'll go through your body like shrapnel. You'll see people that like take the guard off. Don't do that. Just leave the damn guard on. Also, your cutting wheels, they have dates on them, so look that it's not expired. It's going to be more apt to break. And you can get cheap ones, but I found it's just what's that saying? Buy once, cry once. Spend a little bit more on them. They're a bit safer, and they're going to last a bit longer. They do wear out, as you see. This one's ready to be changed. When you're grinding high carbon steel, those sparks get hot, and these pads I'm wearing now, they're not cotton, they're kind of synthetic. And last time a while back, I was grinding some high carbon steel, cutting, and I'm really paying attention to try to cut straight lines. And next thing I know, I'm getting like a burning in my pants, and they started to melt. So that is an issue. That's where a leather apron is gonna be it'll save your clothes and save you from lighting your crotch on fire. I just got a cheap one off of Amazon. It's really cheap, but it does the job. I'll upgrade to a thicker one in the future for sure, but that is much better than using machinery and all of a sudden realizing you're on fire. Another thing like that's easy to overlook, because I mean, some people get into stuff and they have a background already with metal fabrication, working with machinery, whatever. So some of the stuff is kind of like duh, but if you don't have that experience, there's a lot of things that everyone thinks like is common knowledge where you might not be aware of it. Something like boiled linseed oil. You put that on a rag to put a finish on things, whether it's on wood or on some metal you've forged. Boiled linseed oil on the rag, that can spontaneously combust and start a fire. So look at ways to properly dispose of that and avoid that. So there's a lot of little things like that. When I first started and got my forge, I was looking everywhere for scrap metal and asking neighbors, you have anything? And I got all sorts of random stuff. And one thing I got was some pieces that were galvanized. And that's a zinc coating. And if you inhale that, if you heat it up and inhale those fumes, that is really toxic. It'll really mess you up. So there's a lot of things like that you want to look into. If you're not sure, ask, is this okay to put in the forge, blah blah blah. Zinc you do not want to use. Don't mess with galvanized metal. I know people have welded with it and just got terribly sick, screwed up their lungs. People died from it. So another one's hearing protection. I work outside. My anvil's not that noisy, and I'm used to loud noise, but I should be wearing hearing protection more than I do. But there's some stuff when I hammer on it, especially with different tools in the hardy hole and stuff, that is really hard on the ears. So you do want to wear hearing protection. Clothes in general, you want to have cotton is the best, because like when you're hammering on a piece of hot steel, that hot scale will fly off and hit you. If you're lucky, you'll catch it in the wrong place. It can go down the back of your shirt. So, you want to try to wear clothes like cotton that are not going to burn. Also, working with things like a grinder or a angle grinder. I have a long beard, but I always tuck it under. If you watch videos on an angle grinder and some stories about accidents with those, you'll learn, okay, that's a tool to respect. Don't be stupid with it. People have seriously injured themselves with that. They're very dangerous. Don't be afraid of it. Having fear of working with it is probably going to get you hurt, but be knowledgeable about it. If you're not familiar, if you're new to working with an angle grinder, I'd say just watch a few videos dedicated only to the safety of those. Fire hazards, of course, watch out for that stuff. Don't set up your forge where something's going to blow up. Another one is refractory cement. So I'm going to grab my forge and go show you a little thing on that. Alright, so here's my forge, and you'll see when I got it, it came with a pack of refractory cement rigidizer, and there you can see it. All around here you see this exposed cow wool, which is very bad for your lungs to breathe in. I forge outside, and I try not to just stand there in front of it, but it needs to be recoated. I bought some new refractory cement. It's a pain in the butt because it takes several days to dry. So today's Sunday. I can't forge outside on Sundays. It's too loud. And it's a good day to do it. It's going to take a few days to dry, so I won't be able to use the forge for a few days. But I did it when I first set it up, but being clumsy, you bump into it with metal and stuff, and it wears off, so you got to replace it if that's the case, especially if you're going to forge inside. And of course, if you're forging inside, you got to make sure you have the right place for it and the proper precautions. I do have a fire extinguisher. I do have okay. Somebody's talkative. I have a water hose hooked up right next to where I forge. Be responsible about it. Preventive. And usually before I set up and fire up the forge, I do a quick check through, like run through everything. Is everything here I need? I don't want to have to like run away from the forge looking for something. Look for everything that could go wrong and just kind of double check your surroundings, make sure everything's safe. I have had plenty of close calls you'll learn from, but it's better if you already know about those to prevent them. Even using my grinder, which I'm going to do a separate video on that. A couple weeks ago, I was grinding some bevels, so there's metal dust I didn't clean, and then I was grinding a wooden handle. And a lot of people say don't even use the same belt for wood and metal. I just did it quickly. It wasn't a big deal. Someone came by, and I'd stopped and walked back in 5 minutes later, and this thing was smoking. I thought first it was some kind of electrical fire, and plugged it, and I realized the dust from the wood that fell in here and then the sparks from the metal ignited it, and it was starting to burn in there. Luckily I caught it in time, nothing happened. So keep a brush around your grinding area and clean it well, in between use, to prevent that kind of thing from happening. Because it took a while to start, so I could have, if I hadn't walked back in, it could have started a fire, screwed up my grinder, or burned down my shop. So those are all little things to keep in mind. One more thing is gloves for blacksmithing. I see some people they're starting out blacksmithing and they're wearing gloves on both hands. Assuming you're right-handed, or let's just say you're hammer hand, I would not recommend wearing a glove when using a hammer. It's going to just make things a lot harder. It's going to be painful. You don't need a glove for your hammer hand. I'll use a glove on my left hand if I'm holding, say I've got something long enough where I can stick it in the forge and the end's not hot, or it's getting kind of warm, then I'll use some gloves just on the hand to hold the piece with. You got to be careful with a couple things with gloves. Let me see. I don't use them that often, so one is like these. They're kind of like welding gloves, and that gauntlet is a lot of space there. So all you need is a hot piece of forge scale to fall down in there, and it's gonna burn like crazy. I like gloves that are big that I can just go like that and get it off with one hand. That's, if you're struggling to get off, it's too late. You already burnt yourself. Another thing about gloves that I don't care about is if you grab something that's too hot with the glove on, by the time it burns through the glove and you feel that, it's too late. You already burnt yourself. Barehanded, you're gonna have a quick burn, but it's not gonna sit there burning through the leather into your skin. I've done it. Everyone's done it, I think, if you blacksmith long enough, where you touch something that's too hot and you get a burn, you let go quick. What I do is keep a aloe vera plant handy, and if I burn myself, I smother that with aloe vera right away, and that helps a lot. If the burn's bad enough, you'll probably learn not to touch hot metal again, or be much more careful about it. So yeah, gloves for blacksmithing, there's different ones rated for different things, but I generally do not use them. I find that they're more dangerous than it's worth. Same with I see some people that wear gloves for using the grinder. Honestly, you know, if the material gets stuck in there, that's going to rip your finger off. I'd rather just lose some skin than have something like break my finger or something using just to, you know, that's my personal opinion. Uh, any kind of tools, you know, where it's got power behind it, you don't want something that is going to get caught in there. Your clothes, whatever. I've seen people get angle grinders stuck in their shirts, you know. So always wear pretty tight fitting clothes and be very careful of that stuff. But that's it for this one. I'll have a couple more videos I'm going to be shooting today going over some tool basics and some of the kind of hacks I've done here to work on a budget. Thanks for watching. Till next time.